Hello and welcome to Business Finishing School. Let your business brain finish what your entrepreneurial heart started. Our catalyzing statement is a successful entrepreneur inside of every business. Enjoy this module.
Welcome to Module 9, Rules-Based Business Decisions. In this module, we'll continue to focus on simplicity, probability, and success. But we also want you to have a deliberate business. And we'll explain what a deliberate business is.
Can you talk about, what's the difference from our values-based decisions versus rules-based decisions?
Well, values-based decision-making, which you learned in Module 1, is the lens through which all of your life and business decisions will be put through. So it's more of a wider scope. But rules-based decisions, we're going to bring it down to the level of your business. What happens on a daily basis? How do you hire people? How do you bring on clients? What's the strategy of your business? Very specific tactical things that you can implement in your business.
So basically, the values base is kind of the more philosophical and purpose nature of the business. The rules base is the tactical detail. These are our rules for how we make decisions. We will do this, we won't do this. And we'll give examples of these as we go along.
So you may be wondering, what is going on with Rick and Patrick? We decided that we're in month 9.
We'll switch some roles.
Yeah, let's switch some roles.
Have some fun.
But one thing I do want you to understand about life and about business that I've learned the hard way is almost a principle. And Patrick and I were talking off camera, and we said, the bottom line is take your business extremely seriously, but never yourself.
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to free you from and liberate you from is all of the frustrations and heartache and sleepless nights that you go through as a business owner. And what you'll notice, and one of the most important pieces of feedback that we get, is everything that you've taught me in Business Finishing School is easy to implement. You have honored the promise of we could put this on the ground tomorrow. So remember, take your business very seriously, but never yourself.
Well, one of the trainings that we do is called Total Solution, which is a 4-day intensive training. And when we launch the training, we have 10 foundational rules. And this is segments, rules-based decision-making. We would go through these 10 rules at the beginning of the program to structure so that everything succeeds on the highest possible level. But Rule 10 at the program is have fun. Yeah, we are serious, and we're serious about business. We're serious about helping you with your business. We're serious about our catalyzing statement, etc. But Rule 10 is have fun. If people are having fun, they're successful. No matter how much you might be quote-unquote succeeding, if you're not having fun, there's no success in that. So this is all about having fun.
When we talk about having
I wondered, are you laughing right now? Let me put it this way. If the camera opened up and you didn't start almost falling off your chair laughing, the cameraman can hardly stand up behind the camera. If you aren't laughing right now, you're not having fun. This is your wake-up call to loosen up, lighten up, have a little fun. I know business is serious. I know business is hard. I know you got strains of all kinds of things, and you've invested in this program because you want to learn something. But if you learn nothing else from this program, learn to have fun in your business, and it'll be worth 10 times what you paid for it.
Amen. And the bottom line is, when you have a deliberate business, you could deliberately add fun to your business. Why not have your new patients and your new clients and your new relationships in your business have fun when they're with you? And you can put processes and systems in place so that fun happens as a result of people interacting with your business. And I promise you, you'll get a lot more out of your employees if they're fully engaged and they're having fun and you're having fun. So lots to learn in this module, and we're excited to enter the serious portion of this module. So can you take my wig off, please?
That sounds like a very loaded remark. Nonetheless, I am going to assist him in pulling the latex off his head.
Should we do it on camera?
Yeah, we could do that. Okay, here. Thank God.
See, that's easy. Mine's got glue and makeup and all kinds
I got Velcro on them. All right. Will the real Rick Sapio please come out?
All right, we will return in a moment. All right, so let's go back to the word deliberate and having a deliberate business. A moment ago, I talked about simplicity, probability, and success, but you're going to get simplicity, probability, and success by using the word simplicity, probability, and leverage. I was having too much fun that I forgot the third word. But here's the
At least that's the excuse he uses.
But here's the bottom line, and I really want you to think about this. Simplicity, probability, and leverage are deliberate things. You have to think about that. Am I being deliberate in my business? Is my simplicity of my life and my business deliberate? Of course it is. You have to think about it. When you're making decisions, you have to say to yourself, will this decision simplify my business and my life or add chaos and complexity? And I don't think people add enough deliberateness to their business. Same thing with probability. Is the business decision I'm about to make going to increase the long-term probability of my successful business playing out over time? Is it going to increase that probability? And I think all too often people don't think like that. They don't add deliberateness. And of course, leverage. Am I leveraging myself deliberately through my people? Are my skills being leveraged in my business? Am I making decisions that will play out over time so I don't have to micromanage every aspect of my business? All of this is deliberateness and rules-based business decisions, which we'll get into in a moment. But I want you to think about the three words that we've talked about over and over and over. And if you think it's ad nauseum, it's supposed to be, because we want them to be drilled into your consciousness. Simplicity, probability, and leverage.
Well, the way that I apply this, and I spoke about this a little bit earlier when I had hair, basically, I look at the values-based decision, which is Module 1, as the foundation. This is the values of the business. And that's how you make all your strategic decisions, what you're going to do in your business, etc. I look at the rules-based decisions as more tactical. Now that I have all these values, which are basically the boundaries for my business, where I want to go and where I don't want to go, then I have rules for all these different functions of the business. So if we look at it, and Rick has been really good at analyzing it, he's come in and done analysis for me at the varying functions of the business. And when it comes to hiring, okay, we have rules for that now. Used to be, we kind of had an idea to how to hire, and you're going to see on the next module, we're going to talk a lot more about hiring in detail. And we're going to give you some of those rules maybe here as examples, but you're going to get deep into it next module because this is a big one. When it comes to your marketing, when it comes to your sales, when it comes to your finance department, when it comes to the varying departments of your business, product development, operations, admin, etc., you have rules that you put into these places in your business. Obviously, they all are under the umbrella of the values of the business. They're all under the umbrellas of the catalyzing statement for the business. And in my business, for example, we have 10 core values. So we make values-based decisions. There's 10 core values. But Rick sent me a sheet of just some of the rules he has for his businesses, and those are like dozens and dozens of rules. So that's when you drill down and get kind of tactical with it as compared to saying, here's the 10 core values of the business, and that's where it all starts. But now that and the rules-based decisions we're talking about here tactically have to be congruent or in alignment with those values. But now these are really things that go to work every day and give you your playbook for your business. And the one thing that I've learned is that every time we have a business hiccup, a business challenge, where something goes awry, something doesn't work, which every business has that's just a part of the development process, that's the opportunity now to create a new rule. XYZ happened, and it kind of derailed our business. We hired somebody, and they didn't work out, and it cost our business. Okay, what did we learn, and what rules can we put into place based on what we learned so that next time we don't make that mistake again? Because the one thing that you said to me, and you said it over again, and it's one of those things that it makes everybody laugh when you say it, You know, they say people never make the same mistake twice. No, they make it 20, 30 times. And when you don't have a rules-based principle in your business, maybe, again, rules-based business decisions, when it's not a principle by which you run your business, then suddenly you kind of make up rules once in a while, but you don't have this, literally this process or this mindset that says, our business didn't work right here for this or that reason. We're going to put a rule in place to make sure that that never happens again.
I want to use the analogy to take this further, what Pat's saying, of an employee procedures manual. I think back about 15 years when we first created an employee procedures manual. We referred to it as the manual. And every time a situation came up, like office dress code or someone taking advantage of vacation or sick days, we would add another sheet into everybody's 3-ring binder, which was their manual. And so it's kind of the same thing. We're going to, as a result of this module, teach you how to have rules, basic rules that are not changeable unless you amend them, just like the United States Constitution has amendments. It is the Constitution, right? That
Yes,
has amendments?
yes.
I'm teasing, I'm testing them. But you want to amend rules, but you don't want rules to be fuzzy. You want them to be crystal clear. So over time, we've amended our employee manual, which we refer to again as the manual, and so employees know when something changes, it's a different color sheet we added in. Same thing here. We want you, as a result of this module and doing the implementation guide, which will give you a lot of ideas, to have basic rules for all aspects and all functions of your business. And Pat touched on a few of them. I want to read some for you here. Just some things to think about as your business, as you run your business. New customer acquisition rules, marketing rules, customer retention rules, customer service rules, product offerings. Are you randomly adding on new products, or do you have certain rules such that when they come into your business, they don't cause a lot of chaos? Rules for adding vendors to your business. We have a vendor procurement procedure which has a set of rules when we add on new vendors. As an example, we don't like to add on new vendors that have not been in business for at least 5 years. Why? Because every problem we've ever had with a vendor was because they were a new company or they didn't have their own systems in place. You want to have rules for how you fire somebody, because you want to make sure that you're learning with each reiteration and you don't make a mistake. And an example of that is, if I have to fire someone, I always have 2 people present, and I always have a letter that was reviewed by an attorney. So you have the employee that's being fired sitting across from you. There's 2 people, so there's a witness, and they read this letter in front of both people. It keeps it nice and simple. Some companies even take it a step further and record it with a recorder, because we live in, unfortunately, a litigious world, and you want to make sure that you're protected. You could have rules for that. You have rules for accounting. You know, you want to make sure that accounting's not done in a random way. So I wanted to cover some bases here. There's a lot more about this and rules within each one of those in the implementation guide. We're also going to cover it on the application portion of the video. I want to read something to you here, which is a promise of rules-based decision, the module. And it says, the goal of this module is to allow you to be fulfilled, achieve your goals, lower your stress, and have impactful employees. And you could have all 4 of those things as a result of putting some basic rules into your business. By the way, what I was reading from is the syllabus on the first page of the website. So if you go to the first page of the website, the home page, you'll see Module 1 through Module 12, and you could see how all the topics tie together. This, as you may know now, is the first year of the program, and we call it the Foundational Business Principles. At a certain point, we're going to introduce you to year 2. We want to keep your learning growing. We believe that as a business person, it's a lifelong journey. We're going to make sure that all of the topical things that you need to know to run your business are imparted through this program. So be on the lookout for year 2. 12 more modules will be rolled out, and we actually have 2 more years after that, which should keep you on your toes and keep it interesting.
Well, it's immersing into a culture. You know, before we head over into the applications, there's one story that Rick tells that I could apply the story to multiple principles here, but since it hasn't come up yet in the prior modules, and I think it does apply here, go ahead and tell the whole background of that story. I think it's a great story.
Okay. We had decided to invest in a new company several years ago. And in the process of setting up the business, which we were trying to get funding for, I put together a board of directors of qualified people, and it ended up being a rather large board. And the reason we did that is we wanted to have credibility when we went to the capital markets to raise money. And one person who was very close to me, I knew him in college, and I knew him very well. I had known him for a long time. All he ever talked about in the deal was, how will he get screwed out of money, or his percentage, or how does he know he's going to get paid? And his whole orientation was negative. So he had flown to my office from Florida, and we were sitting across the table, and I said, I have a way that I can guarantee you unequivocally that you will not get screwed on this deal, and you'll have absolutely no issues in this deal whatsoever. And he said, great, what's that? And I said, you're out of the deal. And he was shocked. What do you mean I'm out of the deal? You're out of the deal. And thinking back to simplicity, probability, and leverage, I knew that there was no way that this business opportunity would work with him involved. But I think too often in business, we want to try to fix and maneuver and work things out. A lot of success has to do with you simply saying no to things that don't work. And what an incredible moment it was for me, because I had this moment where here I was struggling and straining with this long-term relationship. How am I going to fix it? How am I going to make it better? Sometimes the best way to fix something is just say no. So, anything you want to add about that story?
Well, no, I think that's it. And obviously, the doorman comes up. We, addicted to yes will come up later. We'll talk about some of these things. But bottom line is that a rule should be that you can't deal with, or you can't try to move forward with people who all they do is live in the downside, and their whole life is obsessing. And the reason that story is important to me is I've had that issue. I've had that problem. I had a problem with contractors who literally, we were negotiating a new contract because our old contract was up, and the whole thing ends up in a lawsuit because all they did was worry about how they were going to get screwed, and couldn't move forward. They were stuck. And if I had applied some of the new rules that I have now, which would completely avoid that, I put new rules into place about how we go into relationship with people, how we won't go into relationship with people, and these rules in this situation get fed to our doorman, right? Because there's values which are sort of generic, and in some ways I could say some people, like this guy on the board, fit the values. There are things about his attributes, et cetera, that fit the values, but there are things about him that would not fit the rules for doing a deal with the person. So what happens is these rules, when they go into place, can really save you a lot of headache and grief. And I think that when you start to think about this, because on the surface it almost sounds like almost pedestrian common sense, but there's really more to this, and it goes deeper as you think about it. When you start to recognize, how objective are my rules? When we go into applications and we start actually reading some of Rick's rules that he's put into place, you're going to start to recognize, wow, that's a good rule. Wow, and it's documented. And literally, because you might say, oh, I got 3 or 4, I got 5 rules. Like one rule I have is I never make decisions based on fear or anger. Good rule. But if you only have 3 or 4 or 5 of those kind of rules, what Rick is talking about here digs a lot deeper. It's down to the brass tacks level, and it's very, very tactical. What rules do you have in place? You could have dozens of rules in each department of your business, each of the business functions. And when you apply that level of rule-based decision making, suddenly things transform.
Yeah, the bottom line here is that you want to have your business function properly. That's obvious. So as you learn from mistakes, rather than just making a mental note, okay, I won't do that again, you actually go to your manual and you update that function of your business. So let me take it to a higher level right now and talk about business strategy. What is business strategy? I'm going to give you my definition of business strategy. It seems to work in a broad way for all businesses. So Here's what a business strategy is. Now, before I tell you what it is, I want you to think about this word. We often get overwhelmed. Strategy, what do they mean? Strategies, what do they mean? Here's my definition of business strategy. Who do you sell to? What do you sell? And how do you deliver it? So imagine at the highest level, and there's more on this in the implementation guide, you clearly identified who do you sell to. That's obvious, but in the context of a strategy, it changes. So there's three things. What do you sell, who do you sell to, and how do you deliver it? Let's use Amazon.com as an example, so this hammers at home. Amazon.com. Okay, let's start with what do they sell? Well, initially, their business strategy, which has evolved, initially, let's talk about Amazon at the beginning, because this is very pivotal. They wanted to deliver books online. Bottom line, they didn't want to compete with Borders and have stores everywhere. They needed to have a system, a website to start with, to deliver books to clients online, that clients found them online. Okay, so delivering books online is what they did. To whom did they sell? They sold to, I would say, leading edge customers who were familiar and trusted buying online, and who were the type of people that were early adopters. So that's who they sold to originally. Then how did they deliver it? Obviously, they delivered it online using online marketing to get people that were the early adopters to adopt their business and become clients long term. So again, what do you sell? To whom do you sell it? And how do you deliver it to your customer? If you could break your business up into those three components and have rules for each one of those three, and then sub-rules for each function, now you know what business that you're in. It's really interesting when I look at companies to invest in, or I just evaluate businesses as a consultant. The first question I ask is, what business are you in? You'd be amazed. I do this sometimes in closed-door meetings where I'll take an executive team of 5 people. I'll ask them all the same question, what business you're in, and what's your business strategy? Now those are 2 questions times 5 people, so that's 10 opportunities to ask a question, and I get 10 different answers. So now is your opportunity with your business, thinking today and thinking long term, what is my business strategy? And if you solve that problem by answering those questions in a deliberate way, you will absolutely add simplicity, probability, and leverage to your life, to your employees' lives, to your business, and to your future. So one time, and this is important as it relates to rules, one time I got in business with a gentleman who, in the course of getting to know him after I had agreed to the business and we launched the business, what I noticed is he had a huge number of lawsuits around him. And he had built a network of lawyers that would sue on his behalf. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand where this story is going. How you do anything is how you do everything. How he operated in business is if something didn't go his way, or if he manufactured the fact that something wasn't going his way, he immediately called one of his lawyers in his network and started a lawsuit. And this caused tremendous chaos in his life, because his life became about depositions and anger and hatred. And so what I realized is I now have a rule. I don't like doing business with people who are litigious. And you could find that out just asking them, how many lawsuits have you been in? And so how you do anything is how you do everything. These are, this is one of my rules. I don't want to push my rules on you. However, I just want to spur your creativity here. So you think about, as an incident happens in your life, how can I update one of my business functions or one of my personal life functions so that when that situation comes upon me again, I've got a rule and I could check that box. I found this interesting, and again, I don't want to push mine on yours, but someone once told me a long time ago, when you're interviewing employees, especially key employees, 2 things you might want to consider doing as a rule. One is to have dinner, if they're married, with their spouse or significant other, just to kind of get a feel for the relationship. do they show up on time? Do they look the part? Do they get along? Because people tend to, as we talked about earlier, how you do anything is how you do everything. You don't want personal issues to drag into your business life. And another thing someone once told me, which I found to be incredibly effective on both sides, and that is follow people out to their car. How do they keep their personal space? I once followed an important executive that I was about to hire to his car, and his car was a disaster. I don't think I've ever seen a more filthy car with trash all over it, and he didn't seem to have a problem with it. It was before I had this as a rule, and I have to tell you, he was one of the most challenging executives I ever had, and so now that's a rule. If I learn that how somebody keeps their life is completely chaotic and messy and all that, if I have that data point, I don't want to bring them into my business. Again, I am not pushing my values on you. Everybody's going to have different rules and different attributes of each rule. These are things that I've learned the hard way. When I'm doing business with somebody, I like to observe every aspect of their life. But here's why I'm bringing this up now in month 9 of the program. How you do this program is how you do your life. Are you just busily going through the modules, being distracted, or are you putting a set rhythmic time on your calendar every Wednesday morning, for example, from 6 to 7:30, you're going to focus on this program? Or are you just zipping through and then going to the implementation guides and seeing what you could put in place right now to take some shortcuts? I don't believe there are shortcuts in life. I believe if you approach this program in a very deliberate way and you do what we've been teaching you from month 1 on, that you'll have all of the things that we promise the program will deliver to you. So how you do anything is how you do everything. How you do this program is how you do your life. So think about that. I really want you to internalize this because there's a lot of reward here. In how you do things is how you do everything else.
And I think a part of what comes up is the program isn't just watching the modules. I mean, that's the start of the program every month. You need to watch the module, be taking notes, etc. But really the program is watching the modules and downloading the implementation guide and putting it into practice. That's the program. So some people say, oh, it's a video program. No, it's a program that includes videos. It's a very different distinction. But this is an expression of your own habits on how you've been doing the program at this point. So we're pretty far through the program right now. And hopefully you've been doing every month the viewing, the implementation guide, and then the application into your business on a regular basis so that you could see the changes that are ensuing. And it's all a matter of scale. You can get a little bit out of it by just getting, oh, I got a good idea or two out of this, or you can have transformation out of it because you really went all the way with applying it. And I think what Rick's implication is simply that behaviors seem to be they are across the board. Typically, people don't behave really good in one place and really bad in another. There's moments in time or snapshots where you can say, hey, I do this very well, but I don't do this very well. How you take care of your body, how you parent, how you run your business, how you do everything that you do, it's all related. It's a part of the whole. But your disciplines, rhythms, habits, as we spoke about in prior modules, those are going to be critical. But also, when you start to make your rules, you might want to start looking at behaviors currently for yourself. I mean, there's rules for your business, but part of these business rules are about you. What are your rules? A part of your rules might be, well, I don't just start things, I finish them. I put habits into place to make them happen. And I think this is the implication of what Rick is trying to talk about here, is that don't try to compartmentalize your life and think that you put rules in one place and that works, but you don't have rules in other places and you'll be fine. I think the rules-based application goes across the board as far as your life is concerned, your business is concerned, etc. And that's critical that you take a step back and you figure out where am I missing rules right now? Obviously, we're focusing on the business. But literally, to be successful in business, we believe you need to be successful as a whole person, which means you should have success in your relationships, you should have success in your health and well-being, you should have success in your finances, you should have success in the varying dimensions of your life. And listen, nobody's perfect. We've all made mistakes. We've all done things that we regret, and we've all had things done to us at some time in our past. But the idea here, I think, is to say, you know what, let's practice what we call self-acceptance, meaning that we just make peace with whatever the past is as compared to being hung up on it, and now say, based on my vision for who I want to be, based on the vision for what I want my business to be, I'm going to put the following rules in place, and it's going to structure me and move me in the direction in a, to use the word that Rick used, a deliberate way.
And I want you to know that I've been reading all the testimonials from you, and I've been overwhelmed by the people that are taking all the modules, putting them in place in their life. So if you feel like there's a gap between what you're implementing and what you could or should be implementing as it relates to this program, please do what's necessary now in a deliberate way to close that gap. So now we'd like to close this portion of the module and move into the applications.
So now we're going to get into some applications. And let's start with the application for hiring. And this is a big one. It's an important one. And just so you know, don't feel like, oh my God, I got to get every ounce of this right now and feel like you're left wanting, because we're doing this cognizant of the fact that your next module is going to take a deep dive into hiring, because this is a very important area. But I think it's important here in the context of rules-based decisions that we talk about hiring. So what do you have on that, Rick?
Well, I first want to say that a lot of the feedback coming from you directly is around hiring, so I appreciate it. And you'll learn a lot now, but a lot more in the next module, as Patrick pointed out. But let me give you some basic things, and there's also more in the implementation guide, on hiring. And these are some rules that I've learned over time. Now, one of the rules that I've instituted in my business is I will not interview and ultimately hire someone who's been out of work. What I have found is that A players are employed. Now, does that mean that there's some A players on the side? No, these are general rules. So what I'm trying to do is institute simplicity, probability, and leverage into my business. And again, I'm not telling you that you need to do this. It's to spur your thinking. So when you're looking at resumes, if there's a large gap in their resume from the last job that they had, if you have 200 resumes, and ultimately you want to get as many as you can possibly get, it's an easy way to sift through. So if somebody's not gainfully employed, then it's probably a good probability that they're not an A player. So we look at that. Number two, a rule that we have, again, I'm looking just at sifting through resumes as it relates to hiring. If there's typos on their resume, or if there's key pieces of the resume missing, as an example, if somebody does not have an email address on their resume, in our business, we've determined that those people just don't work. How, in this environment that we live in, as technology-oriented as we are, how could you not have an email address on your resume? How is somebody supposed to get in touch with you? So we like people that think about stuff like that. So it's an easy way to kick a resume out. We also, as a rule, when we're hiring, we want people that have been in the position or a closely related position for at least 5 years for the position we're hiring for. So as an example for you listening, if you're hiring someone to do your accounting and they just got out of school last year and they haven't yet found a job in accounting yet, even if they could interview as great as anybody in the world, but what we've learned is, as a rule, they have to be doing that job for at least 5 years before we'll consider them. And to think about how these rules work, they're intended to increase those 3 words that we talked about: simplicity, probability, and leverage.
And I think that's the key here. And we get, when I say we, I mean many entrepreneurs, business people of all varieties, get somewhat perplexed when it comes to hiring with the human interaction, et cetera. And I find a lot of exceptions want to be made. But rules do provide simplicity. Rules definitely provide probability and certainly leverage. So don't start getting into the mindset of, well, I have these rules, but then I'll break them. I'll make an exception over here, and I can make an exception over there. And here's a resume that's got a gap in it like Rick just talked about. But look at all these other great things. Maybe we can overlook that. Suddenly now your rules are getting tossed out the window and you're kind of flying by the seat of your pants. So the idea here is to understand rules are rules. And I'm not saying there's never an exception to the rule, but it better be a very compelling reason why you'd want to create an exception to the rule as compared to just making the rule that you make exceptions.
I want to talk about some aspects of my business that will help spur your creativity and yours, hopefully, as an application. Well, we're in the business of making investments into other businesses. And one of the businesses that we've made an investment in is this business that you're now interacting with now, these modules. It's a business for us. And so when we're about to invest in a new business, there's certain things that we look for. And what I like people to look at when they're in their business is it's okay to look at the negatives. In other words, we won't do this, we won't do that, we won't do this, rather than always having rules for positives. And here's what I mean. I'm going to use a personal example. And this is going to sound a little bit extreme, but I want you to have this point hammered home. There was a point in time when I was single, and I obviously wanted to find the perfect wife for me. And I remember sitting down after talking to a good friend who said, why don't you try this? I actually came up with a set of values of the perfect wife for me, and then I had a set of anti-values. And what that means is I didn't want somebody who had these attributes. As an example, I'm going to use an example. I have a severe allergy to cats. And if I was going to marry a cat lover, that would cause a lot of problems. So I'm using that as an example. It's kind of humorous. But I literally came up with a list of 5 things that I did not want in my mate. So it's the same thing in your business. You want to make sure, as an example, when it comes to either employee acquisition when you're hiring people or client acquisition, when you bring clients into your business, have a list of things that if they have those attributes, you do not want them in your business. I talked earlier about litigious people. I have found that people who are very litigious tend to bring that litigiousness into your business. And you want to avoid those people. Because here's what I've learned in life, and we talked about this a little bit in the battleship principle. When bad things happen in business, they tend to set you back years. And what you want to do in business is have clear sailing to the extent that you can. And you want to have rules in place so that you avoid those massive negative things that happen to businesses from time to the extent that you can. There's always going to be issues. But if you could minimize the collateral damage of those issues by way of having rules in place, it will make your success more assured. So, what other rules or applications you want to talk about now?
We can talk about rules, for example, in marketing. One thing, for example, especially in a small business or a business that has tight cash flow that they have to watch very closely. One of the things you want to look at is marketing for brand identity. In other words, you need to see specific return on every dollar, so you won't market for brand identity only, where you'll just put things out there that gets my business's name, reputation, brand out there in the culture, what have you, but there's no perceivable or measurable return. Now, some companies spend millions and millions of dollars doing just brand marketing, but it doesn't drive sales directly. Some companies, and in my opinion, smaller companies, don't want to do that kind of marketing. So you have certain rules about the type of marketing you will do, and of course, it's going to vary based on what you do, what your vision is, what you're trying to accomplish, how wide your audience is. I mean, there's all these types of things. You might be a practice that's out in the middle of a very rural area. Well, your marketing rules are going to be different than a business that's in the city somewhere. So it's a matter of the context of your business and having rules about how you're going to market.
And let's give very specific examples of what Patrick's talking about. You can have a rule in place that says I will not spend $1 in marketing unless it's associated with a new client to the firm, period. And what happens is you block out all of those meetings that I've had over the years with these marketing firms that want to say, you know, for $50,000, we can help you with your brand, we can help you through your website, we can get your strategy down. All of that has no way to be measured. And so, as a rule, you could institute all marketing will be associated with $1 in revenue. Bam, and now you have that in place and you can move on to the next thing. So, as it relates to marketing, you could also add things like, as a rule, anybody who interacts with our company, we're going to capture their email address, and we're going to add them to our ongoing marketing. I am shocked at the number of businesses I interact with that never ask me that question. When somebody calls your firm, one of the things you need to train your people to do is say, what's your name, what's your phone number, what's your email address? We'd like to send you special offers from time to time. Now, some people may say, no, I don't want to give my email address. That's fine, but at least have a rule that you're capturing email addresses of people that are interacting with your firm. So the implementation guide will hammer this home a little bit more for you.
Some companies have rules, for example, on product development. We will only invest in products that X, or we'll only develop products that we know we can turn around and bring to market within some frame of time. Or we'll only, and this is a big one, we'll only market products that have a margin of X. Business structure dictates that. No matter what kind of business you're in, whether you're in some kind of a professional practice or you're in a manufacturing business or whatever the business is, there's some type of a formula that says that we've got gross revenue, we've got cost of goods sold, we got general and administrative expenses, and we have a bottom line that we aim at. And you need a certain amount of margin depending on your business and what's right for you. So again, I'm not going to tell you what the numbers are for you, but the idea is that there's a rule for we don't get involved in anything or sell anything that's a product unless there's a margin of X in it. Even if you love the product, even if you say, well, we could sell volumes of it and make up the difference in volume, it will disrupt the basic formula for the business. So as you get into product offerings, product development, product transaction, there's got to be rules in place. You know, I used to think about this in running my own business. I'd say that an MBA understands or knows the concept of diminishing or eroding margins. I said a CEO really understands it. And it's a trap and it's a seduction. And, you know, I'm speaking personally now, where I didn't have a hard rule in place on this. And I began to say, well, you know what, so what if we give up an extra few percent here or an extra few more percent there? And suddenly now there's no hard rule about this is the line that's in the sand and you don't cross the line. And next thing you know, you get into the end of your year and you're looking at your financial reports and you said, wow, we did really well in revenue this year. But I'm looking at our profit saying, what the heck happened to the profit? Well, we didn't have a good rule in place to say that this is what the margins need to be on anything we sell. And you begin to say, but this is additional sales, so incrementally it's dropping more revenue to the bottom line. No. You got a certain amount of energy in the business. You got a certain amount of bandwidth within the people of that business. And if you start spending the energy and the attention of you and the people in the business toward something that is not returning the right margins, the next thing you know, you find at the end of the year that your margins have eroded and you've been in a compromised position. So this is another type of thing that rules-based decision works. And again, it becomes seductive. But put rules in place for how you're going to do product development, product offerings, and a part of those rules should be what margins need to be there.
And now as we come to the end of this module, which we started off in a very unique way to inject some fun into your day, this is a very deep and meaningful module. But I'm excited to end it with a quote that I really want you to internalize, and the quote is this: only when the rules are clearly defined can true creativity and success be realized. Only when the rules are clearly defined can true creativity and success be realized. And I've said that quote for years, and people go, well, I don't know what that means. So let's use the example that Pat brought up a moment ago. If you're going to embark on new products or you're going to start a new subsidiary, what if one of your rules is we're not going to do anything unless it could be profitable from day one? Well, how could it be profitable from day one? Well, you can get customers that pay first before you start creating the product. The point is, if you were to have a rule that said, we're not going to do any new products unless they're profitable from day one, all of a sudden you have the opportunity to get way more creative and have more success. You could have all types of different rules. You could have a rule for, we're not going to do a new product unless it could be profitable from day one and it has the opportunity to make at least $1 million the first year. Now, again, you have another level of creativity. Now, oftentimes people think, well, wait a minute, if you're putting a frame and a box around it, doesn't that confine me from a creative perspective? No, because let's look at the opposite. Let's say you had no rules and you're sitting with your team, your vendors, with whomever, and you say, hey, let's come up with a new idea. Okay, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. What do you want to do? You have too much. But actually, by confining it down, then true creativity can bubble up. So I wanted to leave you with that thought. Do your implementation guide. I hope you had fun with this module. Do you want to leave them with anything, Patrick?
Yeah, I think that number one, I'm going to ask Rick to put into the implementation guide some of Rick's favorite rules, because his rules might not directly apply to your business, but literally there's these sheets. I mean, they're right here. He's got sheets of rules, pages of rules. And as I'm reading down, I'm saying, wow, that's a cool rule, that's a cool. It doesn't necessarily apply directly to my business, but it applies very much to his business. But it gives you the context for what kind of rules you can create. And as Rick said, it really frees you creatively in a lot of ways. One of the things, when I learned this from Rick, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm always starting new ventures, new business, or maybe new product lines in a business. But I have a new rule now that basically says I will not start a business unless I believe it can grow to X dollars in revenue. I'm not going to tell you what my X is because I don't want to put my stuff on you. But X dollars in revenue. In other words, I'm not going to involve myself in anything at this point in my career unless I know that it's got some potential to be a certain size. Otherwise, it's not worth my time, effort, and energy. And that has been, it's been extremely freeing for me. I've said no to a lot of stuff that I otherwise would have said yes to because I put a new rule in place. And that's what rules do for you. So use this implementation guide. I'm going to ask Rick, put some of your cool stuff in there because I think there's some good rules in there that will help, again, get your imagination going and get you thinking about it. But I will tell you that when you start making a lot of rules, every time you're making a decision, ask yourself the question, what's my rule for this? And if you don't have one, then you know you need one. And then throughout your days, as you start to use that exercise habitually, you will see everything start to transform, and you will have simplicity, probability, and leverage. So thanks for watching this module. Thanks for being a part of this process that we celebrate every single time that we get together, because I got to tell you, we love this stuff, and we're having fun with it, and we hope you are too. Thank you for watching this module of Business Finishing School. Let your business brain finish what your entrepreneurial heart started.